Hello everyone, this is Donna and welcome to this ink and watercolor wash tutorial of Paris. So I've chosen a very complicated scene, but it's very challenging and it's good for practice. So let's begin and we don't give up. So I've got with me my ink pen and my watercolor paper, that's Arches 100% cotton, which I believe is very important. And I'm planning the composition. All the materials that I'm using will be in the description and everything that you need to know to get started and paint with me this scene. So I always start with the focal point, and the focal point is the pink building. So there's three. You have the focal point, you have the minors, and you have the jumper. So the pink building is the main subject of this painting. Before let's continue, please like and subscribe and enjoy the sketching process of Paris. So now, as you can see, I always try to plan ahead all the paintings. It's really important that you plan ahead, and we will try to break down the process, and we'll be sketching in section by section. So we're gonna make it easier by breaking it down. So I've started in the middle, which is this is the focal point, and now I've also continued on the left building, and that's your minor. Then I went back on the roof of the focal point building. So some artists, they try to cover the reference so that they don't get confused. So if you feel that you need to do so, please go ahead. If you have printed this reference. And now I'm adding the building, the third building on the right. So this is still part of the minor subjects of our painting. And as you can see on the bottom, I'm trying to be careful not to reach that limit, because we will be placing here, we will be placing the roads and the sidewalk. So I need a space, and I don't want it to be too crowded on the bottom of the sketch. So I'm using the points. If you notice, I'm using points to guide me in my lines, and they are actually wobbly lines. They are not perfect lines, because this isn't realism kind of painting sort of thing. So I was just trying, to give the big picture of the scenery and not trying to make everything straight and perfect circles and all these things. And I try to complete all the buildings section by section, adding some roof and all the other details, because this is Paris, and in Paris you always have those little things that makes the place really romantic. Small roofs, you have chimneys, everything. So it's a bit crowded kind of scenery. So something happened when I was recording this sketching, and we kind of jumped, but that's not really important. You have the reference on the description that you can download, so you can try this and over again if you feel that you have to. And I encourage you, to really try this one, because although it seems not complicated as the beginning of this video, I've tried it so many times, and I did my best not to give up. And stay with me and you will see at the end of this video of this painting if I was able, to sketch it the way I wanted to. So let's continue. I've added the roof top of the church. This is a basilica church and it's called Sacré-Cœur. I used to live at the foot of this hill because this Sacré-Cœur church is at the foot of the hill, and we used to live here. I was once a Parisian for almost 5 years, and this is such a beautiful, beautiful place and area to enjoy. And I kind of know the scenery by heart because I would be here every afternoon. So the first tip would be embrace the imperfection. So that's I always try to remind myself when I'm starting to be really, really hard on myself that, life is full of ups and downs and no one gets everything right all the time, just like I did at the beginning of the sketches. And accepting the imperfections are a part of the journey that allows you to let go of unrealistic expectations and focus on growth instead. So once you focus on the growth, you forget about the high expectations that you wanted to achieve and just enjoy the present moment. I think tomorrow is not promised, so we just have to enjoy the moment. Mistakes and setbacks are opportunities for learning, and it teaches us resilience and becoming better rather than failures to be ashamed of. So it will make us get better and better the more we practice it. So as you can see, this sketch, I'm adding the small tiny details like the trees, the twigs, the lamps, and that makes the scenery more aesthetic. And with the ink pen, unlike the impressionist style, I don't have to sketch everything, but with the ink pen, I more or less you have to sketch at least 80% of the scenery, because in this ink and watercolor wash technique, it's more about your ink work. So the wash and the watercolor part is gonna be really, really quick. So I've chosen this scenery because it's challenging, and it's also because it's gonna make me, or it's gonna help me get better with my ink work. So I'm adding just the tiny details right here, all the windows, and hopefully I don't miss a lot. So I'm just trying to picture out in my mind and to remember how this place really looks like in reality, and that will give me a better composition in the end. So if you're planning to go outside and sketch your favorite city or urban scape, then choose a place that you really like and you're really excited. As you can see, I've done a lot of practice in these sketches and I try not to give up. So I've added a woman here, which is in the reference, and I've kind of adjusted her position as well. So this is gonna be the first time that I'll be using this Paul Rubens watercolor paint set, and this is professional, and I'm gonna show you while I'm opening this, and I'm so excited to share this with you. So this is kind of bonus in this video. There will always be small surprises in my videos, so please go ahead and subscribe so that you will learn more as you continue your journey to watercolors. So you see we have pens, and I will give my review at the end of this video as well. So this so far I really like it. It's very nice, except that I cut my fingers at the end. Using brush number 2, I added pink watercolor washes here, and as you can see, I left some white on the paper. I am one of those painters that I feel like it's a pity to paint all your paper when you have this watercolor 100% cotton, and your white on your paper will become the light on your painting. But it really depends on the preference of every artist. Every artist, they have their style, and I believe that you as well will have your style if you keep on practicing. So it's just practice, and along the way you will be developing your own unique style. So just keep painting. So now I've added a sky blue. So I've been using Winsor and Newton watercolor paints for almost 4 years, and I've never really changed, and this is the first time that I'm changing my watercolor paint. I am one of those, I don't know, that syndrome of loyalist syndrome, probably you call that. So as you can see, while the watercolor paper is still wet, I am adding this watercolor washes, and I'm doing it really, really quickly. Most of the time it's actually light so that we can see the lines. This is kind of really challenging for me because I started as an impressionist and I like dark washes. So I always start with light and then it gets dark and dark. And in this watercolor technique, which is ink and line, you always have to stay, or it's better you stay light. But this is very challenging for me, and we will see if I manage to hold myself and stop my fingers from adding more light, from adding more dark washes. So the second tip that I could give would be practice self-compassion, which is, I think, is very, very essential when you are starting to do something or any activity. When it's starting to get really hot, I think I always tell myself that it's natural to be hard on yourself when things aren't going well. I think it's human nature, and I'm actually reminding myself, Donna, you're starting to be too hard on yourself and too negative. But Self-criticism can hinder your ability to move forward. So be kind to yourself, give yourself a pat on the back and telling yourself it's gonna be okay and it's gonna be better, and acknowledging that everyone struggles at times. By practicing self-compassion, you give yourself the emotional space to heal, to refocus, and keep going with renewed strength and perspective. So, love yourself and be kind to yourself. So now I am adding more details on the roof, and as you can see, I didn't want to waste the watercolor paint that I have. This is orange, and as I've said, I still don't know what are the exact names of this watercolor paint that I just bought. I just had them today because I'm used, to the names in the Winsor and Newton paint brands. But this is orange, and I will write down all the descriptions and the names. So I am adding orange and I'm putting it anywhere, and then we have this turquoise blue, I suppose, and I'm just looking at the whole the whole sketch scenery to see where can I put the bluish shade before I wash my paintbrush. So one of the bonus tip I could give you is to avoid that muddy look on your painting. Do your best to wash and clean your brush with a tissue paper before you go on the another paint, and try to clean your palette from time to time. So here I am going to add another shade, and I'm doing the mixture. So one of the funny thing that I realized during this painting process is that I was used mixing my own paint, and this watercolor paint set that I have, it got almost all the colors that I need. So I just keep on mixing, and then I have to remind myself, okay, so I've got the purple already, but I still keep on mixing my blue and my crimson alizarin in my head, and then I will have my own purple. But I have to get used to this, and maybe it's gonna make my work a little bit faster, not to mix all the time. But although I would say that that's not really bad, because when you mix your own watercolor paints, then I think you get more knowledge on how to do, of course, the mixing and have your own watercolor paints. Because I always encourage my student, to always start with the base colors and then do their own mixing. So it's not bad at all. So when you are adding shadow on your painting, make sure that your watercolor paper has completely dried. So in here, I am just looking at the reference, and I've kind of changed some of it, and I'm just adding shadows. So one of probably the thing that I would change on this is the color of my shadow. I think it gets a little bit darker, and that's what I've said. I'll try to make it as light as possible the next time, and this is one of the challenge that I have as an impressionist doing line and wash. The third tip would be focus on small steps and consistency. So progress doesn't always come in big leaps. And instead of feeling overwhelmed by the long road ahead, break your goals into small, manageable steps. And I'm always, a bit impatient with this, but I always, stop myself and remind myself that little achievements and little steps are to be celebrated. So celebrate each small victory and recognize that consistency and perseverance, even in tiny increments, will eventually lead to significant transformation. So it always goes back to having faith, having the trust and confidence in your painting, trusting the process that is gonna be all right at the end, and having faith in the alma maters, in God, and having faith in everything that you do and in life in general is very crucial. And personally, I haven't realized that until I'm old because I was kind of, a bit childish probably. And when you get old, you get more wisdom and understanding based on experience, of course, and learnings that you've encountered along the way. And I'm using only the tip of the brush. I'm adding the branches and the trees, and I'm still mixing my watercolor paint, although I already have the color that I need. Okay, that really shows that I've been mixing for many years, and now having my complete watercolor pen, and I don't need to mix again. I'm still doing my old habits. I guess it's not easy to teach an old dog a new trick, isn't it? 샛별 So Paris is really a beautiful city of lights, and I'll try to add some lights And I want to evoke more that this is the around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think that's the best time of the day to paint Paris because of the light that you can see everywhere coming from the lamps, from the windows, from the shops. That's really nice. And it's also, I remember it was the best time for me because, at the end of the day's work, you can just enjoy this very lively ambience in the city. And I would often go up in this hill and would listen to the bands singing at the front of Sacré-Cœur, and just have this afternoon jamming time. So now I'm adding the as you can see, I've also added more and more videos every month, and I'll try to add it every week. And if you have more questions and any suggestion on what I can paint for you in the next tutorial, then go ahead and write it down on your comment on the comment section. I would really love to hear from you, and tell me what you think about this painting, opinions about how I did it, and any suggestion. I would really love to hear, and I'm really open for critics. I think it's one of the best way to learn, and I don't take it personally. I think it's really nice to hear opinions of other people on your work. So this is probably one of my mistake to add dark color on my windows. Okay, so next step would be to stay connected to your faith. And so, as I've said, I've made some mistakes with these windows, and I feel it was too dark, but I will try, to mend that at the end of this painting process. And we will try to see if I was able to do so. So please stick around. So when you face struggles, remember that you are not alone. And this was really something I had to, remind myself, because when I feel struggles, I feel like the whole world is all against me. But as I go back to my faith in God, and did a lot of reflections and reading the Bible and going to church and learning from other people, listening to sermons, turning to your faith can provide immense comfort and guidance. So, like I said, prayer, reflections, connecting with your spiritual beliefs can strengthen your resolve and give you the courage to keep moving forward. So, Trust that God is with you in your journey, even when the road seems difficult. And I also like to add that believing on yourself and, trying to contradict all those doubts on your mind while you are doing this painting or any painting or in your life in general, contradict and stop those negative thoughts right away. There is power in words, and everything that you say to yourself, even everything that you say to other people about yourself, it's gonna work something inside of you, and you won't even notice that. I told myself, like, this month I'll try to say only positive things um, about myself to people and try to change the way I talk. Started to really reflect on my artwork. It really started to reflect on my personal life. You got this peace in your mind and in your heart, and at the end of the day, I went back to my ink pen and I'm adding those lines just to give more contrast and details on my artwork. So I'm not really strict, probably because I'm still learning this technique, but I'm not really strict. Like, first is the lines, first is the watercolor, first is that. So I feel like I'm just listening to my intuition right now that if I feel like I need to do this, go back to my ink pen or go back to my washes, I do it. Next is rely on God in times of trouble. And this is really true for me and really life changing. The moment I offered everything that I do to God, that was the moment that my life has started to change. I just, keep on fishing and keep on fishing and just keep on fishing and doing things using my own might and strength. And after so many years, at the end of the day, I get exhausted. It's because relying on God in times of trouble is gonna set you free. As the Bible reminds us in Romans 5 verse 3, we triumph even in our troubles, knowing that troubles produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, a hope which never disappoints us. That was quite a painting. So in the end, am I happy with the result? Yes, I I was happy with the results, although of course there's always room for improvement. Watch the other videos that I have for ink and wash watercolor paint if you want to learn more of this technique.